It seems like everyone has a podcast. And if that's what's been stopping you from starting yours, I'm here to tell you that's the exact reason why so many other people never will. If you want to talk about what your podcast could look like, join me for a 100% free private 90-minute strategy session at launchmyshow.com or click the link in the show notes. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to Big Brave Business. This is the podcast where we answer big questions reshaping entrepreneurship. I'm Sarah K. Heeter, and this is Season 3. Each week, I'm bringing on my friends, mentors, and some of the best thought leaders I know. We dive into bold, values-driven conversations about leadership, equity, ethics, and building businesses that actually make a difference. Ready to do business better? Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Big Brave Business. I have another return guest and real life personal friend on the podcast today. And you've heard her voice before in a group conversation, but I am so looking forward to getting to chat one-on-one for the podcast today. Welcome back to the podcast, Jaryn.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I'm thrilled to be back again. I'm thrilled to be talking to my friend.
Yeah. So we were chatting about what are kind of the big brave things that are going on in our businesses and life and what it's like to try to run an ethical business and what's kind of coming up. And although we've talked about some things related to this topic on the podcast before, it's been a minute. And the truth is, at the heart of a lot of the conversations that are going on for us with clients, with colleagues, with conferences, with speaking opportunities, it's AI. Everybody's talking about AI. But yeah, I thought that you had an interesting perspective on it. And so let's just kind of start there. How are you feeling about AI and what are you witnessing now? Here we are it's June 2026. So it's become the thing people are talking about.
Yeah, AI has taken over. We are officially in the AI age. Yeah, AI is pretty much the buzzword. Everyone wants to talk about it. No one knows how it works. I know we like to get into ethics on this podcast. Obviously, AI has a lot of ethical back and forth. But what also stands out to me about your podcast is the big brave business. And the truth is, a lot of the conversations around AI is fear. So many people are afraid of it because they don't know how it works. A lot of people judge it, or people throw themselves fully into it and they end up hurting themselves. Whereas for me, as I know it feels like it's all brand new, it's a whole new ecosystem. Like literally, the search engines have changed to answer engines, AI-based engines. And so it's changed how we're reporting, how things work. Everyone's numbers have changed. It's made everyone afraid. And for me, I'm just kind of like, no, guys, come on. This is par for the course. Those of us that have been in the industry for me, it's been over 15 years. I got my roots in SEO. And the truth is, the roots of SEO was early stages of AI. So us that have been in the industry, we've watched AI build. This was always going to come to the forefront. It's just now everyone has the tools at their fingertips. Everyone's aware of its power. But I'm kind of like, no, guys, we know how to get around this. It's going to be okay. Just let's put our big brave faces on, right? And just start diving into AI.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I completely agree. So much of the conversation is, I would say, rage and fear based. So I feel like so much of the internet right now, and not just about AI, but AI is definitely falling into this. But so much of the internet, especially in kind of the ethical conversation space, is rage and fear baiting. There's so much, if when we talk about, oh, people are trying to spread division, right? And I'm just going to say people, the system, people in power, people in certain leadership positions, whatever it is, in order to keep a certain level of power, they have to keep us divided. But a big part of that is fueling the rage and fear baiting. And I think sometimes I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody, unfortunately not for the podcast, but I kind of was like, wish we could record right now, where she was saying, and this is exactly how I've been feeling about this AI conversation. So many people think that they're having a big and brave conversation about AI, and actually they're really being fed so much of the rage and the fear on purpose. And then they're regurgitating these rage and fear points feeling like at least this is something good I can do. At least this is some way I can like fight back against something, when really the system fed them the rage and fear tactics that they're now activated about. And so that's really sensitive. If you're listening to this and you're somebody who's been posting on the internet some anti-AI stuff, do not hang up. Like don't leave us. Like hear us out a little bit, because we are not saying that there are not ethical complications and frankly crises involved with the rapid adoption of AI. Like there are absolutely massive ethical concerns and, like I said, literally like crisis level concerns. So not arguing that. And as you said, we are still in the age of AI, whether it's we're in a lot of crises right now, friends. This is like a really crisis driven time. We're just adding this to the list.
No, you put that so well. I love how you said that they're being fed the fear, and that is just so true. I can't tell you, like, most people don't understand what I do anyways. Like, I tell them, like, oh, I'm an agency owner, I'm a digital marketer, I help people be found online. It usually goes over people's heads because, on average, people don't know how the internet works, and it's just continued on with AI. But yeah, I'll be out at a restaurant and someone will see me using my phone, or they'll hear digital marketing, or they'll hear me say AI, and they'll start scolding me, right? They'll be like, "Oh, AI is bad." And I was like, what are you basing that off of? What kind of AI? I do agree that there are qualms with it, just like there are qualms with a lot of things in our
Mm-hmm.
society, like you were saying, Sarah. But what is it about it that scares you? And then, like you said, they just start regurgitating things that in your head, you're just like, well, that's just not true. You just read that like a headline. And the truth is, like, so many people are shocked when I'm like, did you know that you've probably been using AI for most of your time on the internet? You just weren't
Yeah.
aware of it. They're
Yeah.
like, what? I'm like, did I assume you were Googling things back in 2014? Yes. Okay. Well, that was technically early renditions of AI. It's
Yeah.
just that it's gotten smarter and more accessible now. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's become much more scalable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so much is fear-based. And I've learned a lot in my career that really marketing is not the hard part. Understanding AI and SEO is not the hard part. It's really getting the relationships and getting your clients and the customers to understand it. So it's much more of getting people to be educated and getting them on the same page. I don't know if you feel the same thing with yours as well.
I think like in podcasting specifically, there certainly are people who are trying to find ways to use AI and leverage AI that like I would go ahead and say, obviously this is not like, this is a blanket statement and blanket statements are never true, but that kind of, nobody wants this. Like there are people who are absolutely making podcasts with completely AI voices, completely AI characters. Like the whole podcast is just AI. I would say that's a thing like nobody wants, right? And the statistics demonstrate that. Like listener behavior and listener polls, like nobody's hoping to find a podcast that's AI generated. Right. And so, yes, there are certainly people doing that. And there are even people who think it's cool. And so, like, okay, but generally speaking, that's not well received. So I haven't really been up against too much that I feel like is threatening my whole industry. And then as far as like my specific job with editing, there are a lot of AI tools out there to make editing easier. And I think, kind of like you were saying, number one, we're also leveraging those tools, right? I'm trying them out. I'm seeing what works, what doesn't. I'm able to talk about that, to speak to like what is and isn't helpful and where it is right now. I'm also watching massive progress happen, right, over the past couple of years with some of those AI editing support tools. But generally speaking, if somebody is going to use only an AI editing tool for their podcast, they're not the person who was ever going to hire me anyway. The people who were
Yeah.
going to hire me for help and support are looking for a level of experience and a level of professionalism. But I don't even mean that, because I'm not trying to say like AI can't compete with humans. It's very different. I would go ahead and say there's no wrong answer. I believe podcasting is for everybody. It's accessible, right? And so
Yeah.
I feel like it should be accessible for the people. That's kind of the point. It was always a grassroots independent platform for using your voice, and I think it should be. So if AI is what makes that possible for you, then by all means, like, I'm not going to tell you, well, I think it's a little classist to say you should have to be able to hire support, because like good support from a human doesn't come cheap. And I don't think it should only be people with a certain amount of wealth who have access to do it. So I think probably similar to what you do, like it'd be great if somebody's in a position to hire you for help. That's awesome. But it doesn't mean that people who can't hire you for help shouldn't get to be found on the internet. Like if there are tools out there that would make that easier for them and more accessible for them, great.
Exactly. No, you said a couple of things in there that triggered me. One, you used the word tool. I wish that more people understood that that's all AI is, right? Just how it has that accessibility, how it can help people. I mean, let's just rip the Band-Aid off right now. One of the number one things that I hear people say is, "Oh, AI is going to take your job," right? They say that about every industry now. Oh, it's going to take your job if you're an SEOer, if you're a copywriter, if you're a podcaster, if you're a videographer, if you're a web developer. Every industry now has been on the target of AI. And I'm just here to say from the beginning, no, it's not. It's not going to replace us at all. You need the human element. It is a tool, and I love what you said, how it adds that accessibility for people, so it can help be a nice tool to help bridge that gap for a business owner that maybe is just getting started. I love using AI to help brainstorm our content, help do some keyword research, help do our SEO optimizations. And there's no thing out there that says that that's bad. Like the search engines or the answer engines now, as they are, the AI engines, they like it when you use AI to help optimize your content. It makes sense, right? Use the bots to talk to the bots. But the tried and true thing of offering a good user experience is still the number one thing that these platforms want. And what's a good user experience? Human experience, right? So you still need that human element looking over, making sure that this makes sense, making sure you're not just putting fluff out there, that you're not just spreading misinformation. And I agree with you, Sarah. People can tell the difference. I have had clients that they actually go the opposite. They love AI. And so they want to use AI images that they create, even though it make graphic designers hate it. And they want to use AI videos and they want to use AI copy only. And then guess what? Their traffic starts to go down, not because it's not good SEO rankings, but it's because people don't trust this brand because they don't think it's real. And then you start introducing real videos of people at the business and real photos and contents that have that real human element.
Yeah.
And guess what? You start to see it go back up again.
Yeah.
So AI is not going to replace anything. It is a tool to enhance us.
Generally speaking, I totally agree, obviously, but I also would say there are things that are changing and they would change one way or another, right? This is the way they are changing, and at least for now, and it's going to continue to change and evolve. I mean, the internet really changed local business, right? Because it made it possible for different businesses to have different levels of competition that they wouldn't necessarily have if they only rely on foot traffic, or like before that, one of the best kind of SEO options before the internet was to have the first entry alphabetically in the yellow pages, right? And so things just change. Now being alphabetically first isn't important anymore. That doesn't mean that, well, the internet's like stealing traffic from people, from hardworking people. That's not what was going on. It's just that you have to find a new way to adapt, right? So then people did adapt. And then social media had really changed a lot, because now we want to feel personally connected in order to make purchasing decisions. And maybe people who don't have the foot traffic, who don't have the searchability or the internet footprint, who are just getting started, but they can connect with people on a live video, or they can have a TikTok that go right. And this is not live video, and TikTok are both way more recent examples of how social media has evolved. So my point being, the marketplace continues to change and evolve over time. And now, yeah, it is going to be a huge shift for people, specifically with how to be found when it comes to how the search engines work. That is definitely changing. I saw, and she's going to come on the podcast in the coming weeks to talk about this, but I saw a friend of mine who does copy for websites, writes like sales page copy and things like that. She was talking
Nice.
online quite a lot about just the concept of the website is going to change. And at some
Hmm.
point, where now we've been living in an era where it's like, if you don't have a website, you're missing traffic, right? Like you have to have that digital storefront, even if it's just to tell people how to actually shop from you, right? But you have to have a website. Well, that might shift, right? Like maybe people won't even need websites. That it's hard to conceptualize, but not that long ago, nobody had websites. So like it's not really that crazy.
I mean, I hope not. I go back and forth because I know like a few years back, everyone went really crazy with like the streamlined modern websites where it's only one page and you just scroll
Yeah.
to see the info and they load so fast and they're so pretty. I can't tell you how many of those sites I've audited. I'm like, cute. It's got a great user experience. It's got almost zero content on it, so you might as well not have a site. So I don't know. One of my favorite things about the rise of AI and how it's changed our search engines and how people are interacting with their just searching is that it's brought social media, like you were saying, to the forefront. Like I've been using social media as one of our core SEO strategies for years. And I always had people that were like, oh, okay, well, that means you're an influencer, right? Or oh, you got to be creating great video content. I was like, no, 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 no. We approach social media from an SEO standpoint, which means we're very focused on your photos being tagged properly. We're very focused on keywords in the posts. We're very focused on consistency and making sure it's diversified on the different platforms. And for so long, people were like, okay, that's just a wasted service. No one cares. My audience isn't on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? The AI results are pulling from more than anything. Those social media legacy platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube's a huge one. I know it's owned by Google. And then, yeah, Reddit's at the forefront again now, too, because it's got tons of people talking back and forth and asking questions and giving their actual one-on-one feedback. So yeah, it's so many people overlooked social media or they think like, oh, that wasn't important to me. And really it's brought that to the forefront because that's where people were having the most authentic conversations. And yeah, it's just been one of those things you got to diversify. So I know you were saying maybe they won't need a website. I'm going to respectfully disagree, but maybe I'll be put in my place with time, right?
And I think it's just a question. I don't think it's necessarily a real prediction at this point, as it is like, I think where I'm going with even bringing it up right now is that my point is things are always going to continue to change. They're always going
Yep.
to change. And that is
Yep.
natural. And honestly, in a lot of ways, it's actually a good thing. It's just
Hmm.
different, or it could be neutral, but it's different. And yes, everything is going to have also loaded consequences, right? And we need to understand what those consequences are and mitigate the harm where we can. And I think the conversations that we're having about, even literally at the congressional level, about water sources and about
Hmm.
the rapidly devolving like sustainability of living on planet Earth. I mean, I think these are really big important questions and we need to talk about them. And if we do continue living on planet Earth, there are going to be people on planet Earth who are using AI. So we have to figure out how to do both. And I think the fear and the rage, I will say, when I first started hearing some of the rage bait about the environmental impact of data centers, and this was like, I would say back in circa, was it 2022 that ChatGPT went public? Is that right?
22 or 23, probably around then. Yeah.
So, like, maybe within 6 months of it going public, and I started hearing these conversations about the environmental impact, it literally kept me awake at night. And it made me
Mm.
think about the environmental impact of being on the internet in a way that I had never really thought of before. I guess there's this kind of concept that's very, very basic. I'm not like a green girl, so I'm learning, right? And I say this transparently that if you're listening and you're like, I've been passionate about the environment since I was a teenager, you're going to know a lot more than I do. But if you're listening to this and you also don't know a lot. Like you buy the sustainable, like the energy saver light bulbs, unless the other ones are on sale. And like you turn off lights when you walk out of a room and you don't leave the water running while you brush your teeth. If that's the extent of your environmentalism, same sister, I'm with you. But I would say like there's this perception I had as a not certified green girl that going digital was the best environment option, like as in go paperless, get rid of all of
Right.
that like physical clutter, like everything that can be digital is actually like a good environmental choice. And for the first time, I started to have literally like panic attacks at night that like think of how I never delete an email. I archive everything. And everybody's doing that who uses Gmail now, right? Like they've almost promoted like you can just archive stuff. So how much digital clutter exists of just emails that are archived from 5 years ago that you will never need or use ever again? And like how much hoarding are we actually doing? And then taking that a step further, because of course emails don't have like a huge environmental impact, but my point was the exponential clutter of that, of like millions of people around the world who all have millions of emails, like that started to feel really crushing to me. And then also take that a step further and think about all of the data that is stored, not just like emails, but also all the posts, all the things you have in your Google Drive or Dropbox, or literally like at some point you've had a million different Google Drives, a million different Dropboxes, a million different like box.com accounts and this and that. Like all these things, like, I don't know, what were the old Photo Bucket and Shutterfly and like
Oh,
MySpace, all
yeah.
these old social media things, like all these places where data is stored and has been stored and is just sitting somewhere in a proverbially in a because of data centers, like making that possible, all of your purchase history at every website you've ever been on. And then we take that further to it's my all of the posts and videos that I've posted and then multiply that out again. And honestly, this is one of the things that as I started learning more, because I did have to in order to like alleviate that tension, I started learning more to discover that right now like something like 15 to 30% of data center usage is AI. Actually, most of it is video. So the
Hmm.
large, like, yes, there's a lot of preparation for AI is going to take more and more of our data center power. And so a lot of the data center construction is undeniably because there's an expectation that we're going to be adopting more and more AI. But also, part of the reason data centers have been rapidly being constructed in our communities for the past 5 to 10 years is actually video. And
Hmm.
it's exponentially more harmful to the environment to scroll TikTok. And especially to scroll TikTok while you're watching Netflix, because then you're streaming double trouble and you're actually like, and this is one of the things that really helped me. Literally, what you ate for lunch had a bigger carbon footprint than your entire chat GPT history. So, and that's
Hmm.
one lunch, right? And so, like, if we want to care about the environment, and I think we should, and I think we're in an age where you can't really not be a green girl anymore, you kind of have to like care about furthering the ability to live on our planet, then there are so many other steps that are also very critical to take. And people have been trying to tell us that those are critical steps to take for decades. And now it's an
Hmm.
emergency.
Well, I mean, it was an emergency when they
It's
told
been
us
an
originally, right?
emergency. Yes.
Yeah. No, first of all, yes, love to Mother Earth. Yes, green girly all the way. This is probably going to make me sound a little cynical now, too, though. So bear with me because I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just going to take a couple steps back. So, one, yeah, I feel like it's those data centers have been there. Like you said, they were already there, they were already growing. It's not because of AI. AI is just another expansion upon it, and it's another reason why it's expanding further. But I tend to be one of those people because I used to have people that came up to me. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to be tracked," right? When privacy was a big thing and everyone
Mm-hmm.
started getting up in arms about it, like I
Another
want to
thing
say
we
around
were fed
2015.
to be afraid of.
Exactly. Exactly. Another thing. And they were like, "Well, I just don't use Google. I use DuckDuckGo and they don't track me at all." And then they'd show me their phone and I'd have to explain to them, I'm like, You are being tracked. DuckDuckGo does track you. Trust me, I see you in my analytics right now. And the only way for you to really wipe your hands clean of it is if you just want to go off grid, right? So now it really just starts to become. I just finished Mike Schur's book, How to Be Perfect. Have you read his one?
No, but I'm obsessed with the title.
It's fantastic. He's a writer that wrote on The Office and Parks and Rec, and he also created The Good Place. And it's basically a low-key philosophical book, but he uses this term a lot called moral exhaustion. Because the truth is, where you and
Mhm.
I are operating right now, Sarah, and where the average business owner is operating or entrepreneur is operating is, like you said, there are little changes we can make in our daily life, but it's just going to impact this like a tiny, tiny bit.
Mhm.
And we've got the cards stacked against us. Let's be honest, there are billionaires that could be taxed at 1% that could impact all of this.
Yep.
So now you kind of have to look in the mirror and figure out, okay, what am I going to be okay with? And here's the truth. I'm speaking to those entrepreneurs and business owners out there. What you want, right, is to build your business so that you can build enough revenue to reach your personal goals, right? So you can start living life on your terms. Maybe you can start funneling into charities and nonprofits that you believe in. So you can start taking control of your own team and start working on your terms. That's your way of trying to break the mold, right?
Yep.
So we kind of have to weigh the options here. Like, yes, does AI have these terrible implications at a global level? Yes, but so does most of our society. Let's be
Yep.
honest.
Yep.
So let's look about what the little changes you can make. Let's see how you can make these changes ethically. And guess what? AI can be a fun tool to help bridge that gap for you, that can help speed it along and help take your business to the next level. So yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but also saying there's only so much we can do. So we have to walk a very loaded path because of that moral exhaustion, honestly.
That's so true. And I really appreciate that perspective. I think we've talked about that a little bit on this podcast before. And so I'm going to call out some like previous conversations all the way back with Becky Mollenkamp. We were talking about her new book, Liberate Your Business, that came out this year. And we talked about how being resourced is so important because it actually allows you to be a better person, a better like participant in your community. It gives you, it makes you a better parent, a better daughter, son, offspring, a better sibling, a better friend, a better, like, you're better at being a human. And I think that also ties through to when you said we could tax billionaires 1% and they could make an impact. Honestly, the top 1%, and not just billionaires, but includes billionaires, the top 1% does get to determine so much of what is going on in policy because they have the resources to fund it. And I think there's something to be said for putting money in the hands of people who want to make policy change, who want to regulate things, who want to, like you said, pour back into their communities and the people who are in need. Like that, only having resources allows you to do that. And so being resourced is important. And we talked about that a few weeks ago. And so I want to call that back through. I also think another thing that you mentioned that really triggered something for me is like the conversation I had yesterday, the same one that I talked about earlier, which was not, unfortunately, a podcast episode. We talked also about going off the grid being the only way you can't. And in this case, we were talking about how, and I've said this on the podcast as well, that going off grid is the closest you can come to not participating in the harmful systems. But what I said with my friend yesterday is that, but it also means you're not part of a solution. So that might
Mm-hmm.
make you feel better because you're not contributing, or you're contributing as little harm as possible. But
Mm-hmm.
you're not actually solving the problem because the people who are still participating or who are forced to participate because they don't have the privilege of the option to go off grid, they're still being harmed, right? And they're still making the planet unlivable. So being involved in the solution is actually more important than those individual micro decisions. And I think you're so right. And when I said earlier about like, oh, this is the extent of my environmentalism, the reality is that actually I've been really involved on the policy side, right? That's much more
Yeah.
interesting to me. That's where my education is. I teach in policy. And so yeah, I think also having conversations like this. I think the podcast, and this is me about the power of podcasting, right? I literally believe it's revolutionary, and that is podcasting that changes the world. And I think it's discourse does matter, and it does influence the course of things more than the purchase decision of which light bulb to get, right? Like me personally choosing. Now, those light bulbs can have ripple effect, right? And so like if every household in America and every office building in America was only using energy efficient light bulbs, and that's just the United States of America, then like that would make a really big impact, let alone the entire world, right? But yes, those micro decisions can add up, but also there's just so many other ways that you can care. So, anyway, as I'm looking at the time, I guess I want to say what's something that we can like kind of leave off, something that's hopeful, something that's really something that's really tactical or tangible. What can we leave the person listening with coming off of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, scary world. Obviously, we like to talk about that on this podcast. We like to get into the ethics of it all because we're all living in an imperfect society, an imperfect world right now, and we're all just trying to make our way, right? The average entrepreneur and business owner has to be willing to look in the mirror and figure out where their lines are. I would say that I don't think panic attacks about using AI or beating yourself up about the usage of AI is going to help you. My heart goes out to you. I definitely have been that person that has that in the middle of the night. But the truth is, don't be afraid of change and don't just believe in all the fear mongering that's being thrown at you, because that's just a way to try to paralyze you. The truth is you've been handed these amazing tools that can help your business grow, that can help your entrepreneurial goals grow. And like you were saying, technically this is more accessible than ever. And the longer that we hem and haw over it of like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't use that. Well, guess what? Now you're going to be left behind. Whereas you could use this as a way to empower yourself, empower your business, get found online, start building that revenue and resources, like you said, and actually start solving the problem with your own brand. So yeah, just don't let them scare you. I'm definitely, like I said, I love the big brave. Don't let AI scare you. Be brave. Go try it out. It does not have to replace you. Trust me, it won't. Okay, and fine. One last hopeful thing to be on there too. I just had an amazing meeting with Reddit because, like I said, they are at the forefront now because of all this AI rising. And they are super optimistic over there because they're like, what's funny is with the rise of AI, it's making a rise in people seeking that human connection. People want to connect with humans more than ever. They want to know that you know what you're talking about. So that's why it's important to be on podcasts and to have the videos and to have the website and the social media and to have the frequently asked questions. Because the truth is, people want to connect with humans more than ever. And guess what? AI can help you get in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah, such great points, and I love that. So optimistic and fun, frankly. I think some things that I would add would be look for some stories, because I don't think we're being fed these as well. Look for some stories about ways that AI is actually revolutionizing some of the things that you're upset about. Like, for example, some of the biggest use case examples that I love to read about are with medical research, that generative AI has actually made leaps and bounds of advancement in medical research, and that's been very stalled for a long time. And also sustainable agriculture. That is another way that this kind of feeds into the next thing that I'm going to say. So let me say the next thing, and then I'll come back to sustainable agriculture, which is that when you see a post that makes you want to hit share, that is about issues, I would stop and pause and ask, number one, is this rage or fear bait? And number two, can you cross check it? Because one of the things, like you said, about people sharing talking points and knowing that they're not true, there was this post that has been going around this year about the UN releasing a report about the environmental crisis, and basically saying that the posts on social media are saying that even the UN is talking about the dangers of AI, and that at this point, like, this is beyond a crisis. But here's the thing, that report didn't actually condemn AI at all. That report talked about the deforestation and unsustainable agriculture and overpopulation. Now, we could then have a nuanced conversation about the role that AI plays in those issues, but that is what the actual report said. Somebody on social media saw the headline of what this report was, already knew the talking points about the harm that data centers can cause in communities and are causing in communities. And they made a UN report sound like it was about something it absolutely wasn't about. Now, that said, the things that were actually listed in there are people who are leveraging AI to actually help with the handling the actual issues that were listed in there. So I think that takes me back to use cases, right? And so those would be the big things I would want to leave you with is like sometimes, so I have my partner, shout out to you, Eric, because he edits my podcast, but my partner is very, very anti AI. And it's been very funny because I use it every day. And well, so does he, but not generative AI. He does not like generative AI. So anyway, we have nuanced AI conversations a lot. And he will say sometimes when I'll share cool use cases like that, like world changing use cases, he'll say like, well, I don't understand why the marketing is about grocery lists and like trying to get every household in the world to use AI when they could be talking about these kind of use cases that would make me feel like better about it, rather than I'm just trying to get richer and I want big companies to do layoffs because then I can use that as a talking point that it's helping them be more profitable or whatever. That doesn't make me feel good. But like those other things, those feel good. So like why don't they market those? And I mean that's capitalism. But yes, I think that might help with some of the rage and fear bait. And then just fact checking. Just before you hit share. Just fact check. Even from a source you think is reputable. Just fact check it real quick.
Right? Like, remember when we were kids and they were like, don't believe it because it's on TV. I think we need to remind each other, don't believe it because you saw it on the internet. Definitely don't believe it just because you saw it on your feed or AI told you or someone that you think is reputable just shared it. Because I've been mistaken before. And I've had people that are close to me call me out and be like, that's not true. I welcome that to be fact checked, and I welcome you to fact check yourself.
Yeah, totally. So hopefully if you've been feeling the rage and fear in your own heart, hopefully this has been helpful. And if you have been feeling like we've been feeling, which is trying not to let the rage and fear permeate like your mental capacity and your wellness, then hopefully you feel less alone. And either way, we're interested to hear what you think. I will remind you that all of our information, including Jaryn's bio and links to connect with both of us, all of that is in the description and the show notes of the episode. And I can say for certain that our DMs are you are enthusiastically invited into our DMs. Like, please come and continue the conversation with us. We'd love to continue to talk about this with you, and especially how things are changing and how that affects your ability to get found online, your ability to use your voice online. The list goes on and on. But Jaryn, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I invite any business owner out there or entrepreneur, like Sarah said, to connect with me. My agency, Deviant Digital Services, helps people be found online all the time. But I do offer lots of free resources because, again, I'm about accessibility and helping the average entrepreneur and business owner. So, hey, if you're ready to be brave and try out some AI, check out my YouTube channel. I give lots of free tips and tricks there on how to start coming up in the answer engines.
I love that. Thank you so much again for being here. And for you listening, thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next week.